Hold on one second. I'm going to edit. We'll have to edit this out because I need to open this. Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Spiritual Uplevel Podcast. I'm your host, Jeri Cristine, and I am so excited to be doing episode 2 with Dr. Eleanor Haspel-Portner, who has created a program that she calls Noble Energy Wellness around the 4 worlds. Feel free to explain that some more, Dr. Eleanor.
I will explain it more. In 1996, I was already trained as a Jungian analyst, and I saw a picture of a mandala in the Mountain Astrologer magazine, and I recognized it. It was the human design mandala. People are at this point familiar with human design, but in 1999, I was asked by Ra-Uru-Hu, the messenger, to validate design scientifically. And I did that on 45,000 cases total, 30,000 statistically, with 5 matched groups. I'm a social scientist by training. I have my PhD from University of Chicago, from the Department of Comparative Human Development, which was an interdisciplinary department in which through which I studied sociology, anthropology, psychology, and biology. So little did I know way back when I got my PhD that I was actually studying the 4 worlds. And subsequent to my PhD, I went and did a postdoc, got licensed as a psychologist, and have basically been in private practice my whole career. But once I met human design, and I was already an astrologer, I was already trained as a Jungian analyst, I was asked by Ra to validate it. And unfortunately, a lot of what Ra said was erroneous. And the biggest piece that was erroneous was that the human design chart, just like an astrology chart, takes one time, birth time, and uses that to delineate a whole chart and say, this is who you are. What I found in working with the 30,000 cases initially is that the human design system as astrology is an incomplete system. And that as I expanded it to the other matrices that hold developmentally in early childhood development, what I found is that we actually function in 4 worlds. Wow. The 4 worlds that come from the tree of life. And the human design system is a synthesis. It was presented as a synthesis of the tree of life, astrology, chakras, the hexagrams of the I Ching, and then the piece that I added in based on my scientific documented data is the other matrices and the 4 worlds. So I added in developmental critical periods of human development, and lo and behold, I ended up with critical times in human development that show how we evolve with cosmic energy. So my work over the last 25 years has been documenting that we are more than just one calculation, that we do live in the 4 worlds delineated in the tree of life and in Tai Chi Gong and in other esoteric disciplines. And those worlds are the mental world, the spiritual world, the emotional world, and the physical world. And each world has its own ways of communicating, its own domain in which it functions. And as we as human beings begin to integrate and recognize that we're more than just our reality plane, and that the truth of who we are comes from spirit, empowerment becomes easy.
Wow.
And the timing of how we do things becomes visible. So, Jeri, today we're going to look at your chart.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited because this just speaks to me so much. I love everything that you say. I just love how it's all compiled into one and it makes sense. As you were speaking, I almost got a visual of the human experience, the human being like like you said, like the synthesis of those four worlds. It's almost like an experiment. Like what happens when we bring these four worlds together? Let's create a human and find out. And I love that you're exploring that
Well,
whole.
if you think about it, by the time a baby, and you have children, so you know early development. By
Yeah.
the time a baby is 3 months old, they start to reach and they're smiling. So a baby knows what's right for them. If you do something to your baby and they don't like the way it feels, they're going to scream,
Yeah.
you know? Or I know with my two children, my children are less than a year apart.
Oh.
And my son was an easy baby, never cried. He'd wake up in the morning and I'd say, Charles, it's too early, go back to sleep, and he'd go back to sleep.
Nice.
It was glorious. And then my daughter was born 11 months later, and I'd say to her, Diane, go back to sleep. And she'd look at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
And then by the time she was 6 or 8 months old, she started climbing out of her crib. So, each child is different, but you know who your children are from the time they're born.
Yeah.
And as parents, our job is to honor the spirit. It's not about teaching them. They get socialized in the world. We live in a culture, they learn how to dress, how to speak, they learn the language of the culture, but that's not who their soul is.
So
And
true.
in my work as a clinician, over being in practice for 50 years, I know that the reason people come for therapy is their soul isn't acknowledged. They
Mm.
want somebody to say, I see you, I know you, I respect you, I honor you. By the time a baby is 3 months old, all the cosmic energy has been programmed into their aura, and they are complete. God did not create us to be missing a part of ourselves. I believe very strongly from my work that God created us to be whole. And in fact, whereas in the human design system, my research showed that about 33% of the population are manifesting generators. I think it was 8% are manifestors and 30% generators. In the multidimensional perspective, when we're looking at an integrated human being in all four worlds, more than 95% of the population are manifesting generators.
Wow.
So it's about my work is teaching people to know who they are, to honor who they are, to learn the skills of communicating in each world, because the mental world communication is clearly going to be very different than your spiritual communication. And so part of my own process as a clinician was working with my clients, and especially couples, and thinking, why isn't this communication tool working? What's missing from it? And I now know that what's missing as I work clinically is I have to be in the right world with the right skill. And so I'm about to start teaching both human design practitioners and just general public, so they can learn about the four worlds and how to integrate and how to live as a whole person. And
Wow.
to stop being told by psychology or human design or the medical community that you are this, and it doesn't include that. So I want people to understand they have everything they need. And I can show them their chart, I can show you your design,
Yeah.
and you'll see how different it is when you put everything together than just one world.
Okay. Well, let's get right into it. If you have anything you want to share on the screen, go ahead and do that. It's ready for you.
Okay,
I'm excited to see this.
and I'm excited to share it with you. So this is the charts the way I look at them. There's 8 of them. When I was given the material by Ra, and he spent a couple of weeks, like 10 hours a day with my husband and myself, telling us, quote, everything the voice told him. And one of the things the voice told him was that when we sleep, we move into what he called a mammalian matrix. And it came about because his dog was with him during the experience. And he said to the voice, so if this is a human design, what about my dog Barley? And the voice said to him, when a human sleeps, they go horizontal and they move into a mammalian matrix, which is a matrix based on the lunar calculation. Mm-hmm. And Ra thought that this lunar design turned on its side with 12 hexagrams, not all 64, was the dream design. It wasn't. It is the dream design, but it's not the sleep design. The sleep design is different because we know that when a cat or a dog dreams, their eyes move. Those of us who've had animals know that. Yep. So there is a sleep design and there is a dream design. And there are different layers of consciousness in a person. You with me, Jeri?
Yeah.
Okay. So I needed to find the lunar, what happens when a mammal sleeps. And in order to do that as an astrologer, I already had the solar calculation. I knew that the dream design was a lunar calculation. I had twin kittens, homegrown to the second birth. So I used a lunar minute calculation. And I used a solar minute calculation. And when I laid out these charts, I found 3 months before birth, a week before birth, which is when the soul enters the fetus in utero. 2 days before birth is when the mother begins to have hormones related to the baby being born. Of course, a week before birth, the baby also drops into the birth canal. Braxton Hicks contractions tell the mother that she's getting close. And then an hour and a half before birth is the transition of labor. After birth, an hour and a half, the baby's breathing on its own. 2 days after birth, colostrum turns to milk and attachment happens. A week after birth, many cultures don't name the baby for a week. In Judaism, we have a bris. In Christian denominations, there's a baptism, noting that they believe the soul is now anchored. That usually happens about a week after birth. And then 3 months after birth, which is now considered when the baby is no longer a neonate in the pediatric literature, is when the baby reaches for objects and has choice and volition. So when I saw that I had these calculations that track with developmental times in human development, which I knew as a developmental psychologist, I went, wow, this is real. Because when multiple disciplines give you the same statistical data, it's valid. It's called consensual validation. So the fact that I got the calculations that other fields map to development says this is scientifically accurate. And the body maps held up in terms of type across the board, statistically. What did not hold up for human design was some of the content. So I look at things differently than the human design community. My work is based on science, not stories. So Jeri, looking at you, in human design, you would have been considered a manifesting generator, single definition, and indeed you are.
Yep.
But in your human design chart, you have an undefined root and an undefined splenic center. And if we look at all of your designs, what I notice is you always keep an open splenic center, which tells me you pick up energy from people in your body. If you're with someone who's hurting, you feel it.
Yep.
And I would venture to say, because you have the 50th hexagram, which is Uranus. So you are a caretaker, and sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel like there's a mission you have, and you don't quite know what it is.
Always.
Okay. That will become more clear as I show you what happens to you. So notice that in your human design, in your mental world, spiritual world, emotional world, and physical world. And I'm going to show you the mandala. This mandala is the human design mandala. Notice that my body graph is very specific. The proportions of the body map that I use have the sacred geometry imprinted in them. The measurements of this body map are sacred geometry, aligned with the tree of life. Now, in your case, prenatally, your sun was in the 49th hexagram. When you were born, the sun had moved all the way around to the 23. When you were 3 months old, the sun had moved around to the 46. So if you track that, we go from 49 to 46, about half the zodiac has been imprinted into your aura by the time you were 3 months old. The earth has gone around the other side. So I show you that so that all you can and your listeners can visualize that by the time any baby is 3 months old, the sun has gone halfway around the wheel and the earth has. And the moon has gone around all of those astrological houses every month, goes around the wheel.
So you're saying all of that is imprinted into every baby?
That's right.
Thing.
I mean, it's going to be different halves, right?
Yeah.
But I show you that so you can see that what I'm reading in these charts is the cosmic influence and imprinting that happens to every single baby. by the time they're 3 months old, so that by the time they're 3 months old and are exercising volition, they are a complete human being. They're not part, they're whole. And in your case, Jeri, we can see a design at the point at which you were born, and we can also see a design that shows that in composite, you were designed as a very strong manifesting generator. You have the capacity with the 59th hexagram, which came in the lunar world and the solar postnatal world. And that 59th hexagram gives you the capacity to be a transformer of emotional energy for other people. So you're very good at picking up the emotional reactivity of people.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's not appropriate. I don't have other words to say it to you.
Yeah.
But you feel it in your body. And then your job is to act as a translator and help people transform emotional energy into spirituality.
Wow. Yeah, I do that.
You do it by channeling information. You keep the 63-4 from the crown to the ajna, makes you question, what am I missing here? Is the kind of question you would ask. It's not, what do I need to understand? It's, wait a minute, what am I missing? I'm missing something. And then your creative intelligence circles through. And you reach out to people at times, if it feels right to you, to understand what you're feeling and picking up from them.
Yeah.
Because you are an empath. And you're an empath through the 18th hexagram. Now, the 18th hexagram is, in your design, it is Pluto. Now, Pluto is a planet that rules the 8th house in astrology. I'm going to jump around in a nonlinear way, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. And I also wanted to say, if people are listening to this on the podcast, I highly recommend that you go watch the videos on YouTube so you can see the diagrams that Dr. Eleanor has laid out. They're fascinating and beautiful. And you need to see it to understand it.
The 8th house is the psychic house. Its ruler is Pluto. Now, your Pluto happens to be in Libra, and it connects up with your south node. So I'm going to look at those. Your south node, you use your skills and your ability to listen. And you are constantly trying to understand what piece is missing for the other person that you are tuning into.
Yeah.
That you can communicate to them. What is tricky for you, Jeri, is that people see your strength. They don't see your vulnerability.
Yeah.
And you are extremely vulnerable, isn't the right word. You know what you know when you know it. And nobody can tell you you don't know it, but a lot of times people try to tell you you don't know it.
Yeah.
And when you say in a gentle way, no, I don't feel that, they don't hear you. They can't get past your power.
Yeah, this actually just came up for me last week in meditation.
Say more.
So I was actually doing meaning of names. So that's something that I love to do that just seems to be natural for me. And I was going through a friend's name and I was going through my name because my maiden name I don't really resonate with, and it's very masculine, and my first name is very masculine. And so my middle name, Christine, I've started using it more because it balances those two out. And the message was that the masculine energy and the strength, people always recognize and respond to that, whether positive or negative. And I'm working on bringing the feminine balance out, which is I'm yearning to do that. It's not as comfortable, and it's not as comfortable for the people around me because they're not used to it.
We need to bring feminine wiles back into the culture.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
a
So
lot
yeah,
of
I
your a
struggle
lot
with.
of your design is emotional transformation. If we look at which matrices you have an abundance of, it's going to be the physical, mental world, and the um, emotional, angelic world. In other words, where do you get that? Oh, you get that. Yeah, you get the 214 about a week after you were born. So before you do anything or commit to anything, Jeri, I would wait a week on anything important. And also the key for you is, are you going in the right direction?
Yeah.
Are you aligned to your real purpose? Are you in the right perspective? It's like what you just said. You want to be in a feminine energy, being in a masculine energy vis-a-vis a project, let's say, would not resonate well with you.
Yeah.
You can do it, but you're not going to love it.
Yep. Yep.
So, what this chart is saying is, yes, you can tune into everybody with the 515, but that doesn't mean it's right for you.
Yeah. So, and the mental, physical worlds, with the masculine energy, I lived there the first 40 years of my life. And I lived there out of feeling like I had to, and performed well. However, as I started letting down my guards and just walking this path more, it has very strongly shown that I don't resonate with that, and I can hardly stand to have a conversation around that area of my life because it doesn't resonate. And when it doesn't resonate, it becomes really, really difficult for me to do something.
Don't do it. What you need to pay attention to is your breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And the breathing comes in, it's always a little bit, but when you get the 2145 in the lunar, it's telling me that you know if you're aligned, if your breathing is relaxed, loving, and keeping you in a level of heart math coherence.
Nice. That makes
So,
sense.
have you done anything with heart math?
No, I haven't. I know some about it. I haven't done anything with it.
Um,
Explain it.
any kind of breathing meditation. What I recommend is breathe in through the nose for the count of 3 and out for the count of 6. That will give you a release of the mental world and an anchoring of the spiritual world, especially if you're meditating on the question, am I going in the right direction? And is this whatever I'm considering right for me?
Okay.
And it's very important that you do that over a week.
I love that you said that because I do, if I react too quickly, which is in my nature to do, a lot of times a week later, I wish I wouldn't have.
Let me tell you how I learned about that. My daughter has the 3420, like you do. And so in human design, she was defined as a manifesting generator. And when I was teaching about what I called the triple design matrix with Ra, which was the dream design and the sleep design, my daughter called me one day, and my son-in-law at that time was a filmmaker, and they were living in Portland. He was working on the PJs. So she called me and she said, we're going to stay in Portland another year, and he can do his movie, and I can work on my PhD and blah. And I knew she didn't, that was completely wrong for her. So how do you tell your child, you're full of it and this isn't right for you? So I said to her, well, I'm looking at her chart, and I knew that in the other layers, she lost the 34. So I said to her, well, I think what you need to do is live for the next few days as though that's real. But don't make a final decision until after you've lived with it as though it's real. And then come back and ask yourself if it's right for you. She called me 3 days later and she said, I can't do
it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad I told her to do that.
Yeah.
But what I learned about the manifesting generator is you look in the multidimensional worlds to see where the decision actually gets made on a spiritual level. Because we're spiritual beings living in a 3-dimensional world. And so for you, what happens is the 214 hooks up a week after you were born. And that 214 is direction of the self, keys to the kingdom. So when you wait,
show me on there. Where is that the
2
214?
is in your
Okay.
solar minute design.
Okay.
And the 14 comes in on your postnatal lunar design.
Okay.
And then it remains. And that 14 is your earth. So the 14 is in the emotional angelic matrix, not in the spiritual matrix. But what it says to me is you were being primed as a baby to know how to transform emotional energy as part of your life purpose. And to the degree that you're being asked to do things that don't resonate with your own direction of self, you've had a long life of learning that that doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And you know the difference now when you feel what's right for you versus what's not right for you.
Yeah.
So it shows up in the chart and it says, wait, 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 wait until you know, because you know, because you know. Because when the timing of the 515 is in the mental world, it may be driven by the people around you, not by what's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to wait until you know what's right for you. And you do know what's right for you, because look at this. In the composite, you have the 53, 42, 515, 214, 18. The 18, the 214 are, and the 13 are paths of intelligence in the tree of life that are higher octave frequencies.
Wow.
So you came in to spiritually begin to own your own spiritual purpose. And you're vulnerable to letting go of it when the people around you don't acknowledge it.
Mm. Yeah. This is hitting for sure. I'm getting emotional. That's so true. Yeah.
Now, you also have the 3635 and the 1222, and you have the 4037 that goes right up to the through the throat. So we know that you always keep the 3635. The 1222 comes in spiritually, but they don't ever go from there to the root. They only go from the solar plexus up to the throat.
So what does that mean?
Well, it means that the way you transform emotional energy is by taking it into your body, feeling whether or not the frequency is a frequency you recognize or want to be around.
Yeah.
And you need to be very discerning about who you allow into your energetic field. And I don't think you've been as good about that as you needed to be.
No, I've gotten much better about it. Yes, much better about it.
Now, the way you can discern whether or not it is right for you is your breathing. So if you notice that, pick a random situation. You go out to dinner, you're feeling great, you're feeling fine, you're in a good mood, you and your husband are having a date and you're looking forward to it. You sit down at a restaurant table and suddenly you feel stress. My guess is you're in the field of somebody whose energy you're picking up.
Oh,
Move.
yeah, I do. Yeah, I do that. Yeah. I
You
need, yeah.
see, you already know who you are. don't let anybody tell you you don't know who you are. And I'll say this to all of the people listening. If somebody does a reading for you and tells you something that doesn't fully resonate with you, don't change who you are to fit into the reading. Dismiss the reading as not being accurate.
I feel like people do that though. Like how often does somebody say, well, for example, I'm a Taurus, so I must be like this. I think people do that a lot.
And it's a mistake.
Yeah.
And what my work proves is that using even one astrology chart is misinformation.
Yeah.
Now, I've been an astrologer. I studied astrology extremely extensively because I worked with my mentor astrologer was Catherine de Jersey. I met her in 1973. She told me I'd move. I told her she was crazy. Yes, I did a contract to get out of my lease, and thank God she told me. I moved from Chicago to California after telling her I had unpacked my books for the first time in 12 years. I wasn't moving. I moved because California was home. She told me the day and time I met my husband. She told my daughter when she'd meet her husband. She was the most accurate astrologer I've ever met. But she only worked with one chart. And when I showed her the human design chart, she said, "Do you think it's too late for me to learn about it?"
Wow.
Because we are not limited by one moment in astrological time.
That makes so much sense.
The astrologers who work with secondary progressions use we use an ephemeris, and we count back 3 months and we count forward 3 months to progress charts. All I did was take my astrological expertise and apply it to what Ra gave me to open up the system to be psychologically, physiologically, and astrologically accurate. And we have a system that checks out scientifically. So I would hope that any of the people listening who are human design people or astrologers begin to work with all the calculations.
Yeah.
Easy to do. Any astrology program can do them. You can just put them into an astrology program, copying the times from the multidimensional charts.
Well, and that's the thing. It's easy. If it's easy to do, why not do it? Why not try it and see how it checks out? Like you said, you've done plenty of research with 40,000 subjects. Why not just test it yourself and try this out? Because
Well,
it just resonates so much that we're so much more than a blip in time.
exactly. And it shows us process.
Mhm.
It's showing you that you always can manifest, but you don't always want to.
Yeah.
I mean, the human design system would encourage you to manifest. But I'm saying, wait, you're not ready to manifest because you're getting pushed by the power of the great in the 34th hexagram. You also have the 20th hexagram, which is the now. And yes, you may want to take action now, but taking action now may not be right for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to wait until you know, because you know. And it only takes you a week.
It's just such good advice. I can see why my now is so strong though. I always want something done yesterday. I get this brilliant idea and I want it done yesterday, but then like I said, sometimes I wait a week and I wish I hadn't done it. So that makes so much sense.
Well, I have the 5818 from the root to the splenic center, from the splenic to the throat through the 4816. So I can always manifest. But I would say to Ra, but Ra, I'm not a manifester. I wait. Where is it that I wait? And sure enough, I'm a lunar generator. So I wait and I wait. And when the timing is exactly right, I've waited 20 years to release my material
Wow.
because people were not ready for it. And
Yeah.
I still know there are pockets of people not ready for it.
You can't make everybody happy all of the time, right?
I'm a scientist. I was part of research at the University of Chicago, and I watched them fudge data.
Ooh.
I watched when I did the statistics for Ra, the pressure that he and some of the other human design people put on me to release data that was FUD. That would have been misinformation. Because when you're looking at social science research, you have to know what you're looking at and you have to know how to interpret it. And so many statistics are put out there and misinterpreted. And I wasn't willing to do that.
I greatly appreciate that about you because that's how it should be.
It's how it should be. So now this is out. My latest book is out, which I can show you. It
Yes.
just came out this week. It's on Amazon. Beyond Human Design. Turbocharge your practice with integrated channels in all four worlds. So any of the podcast listeners who want to know what your integrated chart channels are, this is the integrated chart. All of the channels with all of the permutations and combinations they could be are in this book.
Dr. Eleanor, if somebody isn't trained already in human design, can they start with your work and
Yes.
just
I'm going to be
start there?
teaching. I'm going to be teaching 2 classes starting the week of August 26th.
Okay.
One class will be on the 4 worlds, and it would be for people who don't know human design. And as part of that class, we're going to alternate weeks. 1 week I'll teach the 4 worlds, 1 week I'll teach human design. So people who know nothing about human design in that class will learn how to read their multidimensional chart for themselves and for their family members. The other class, which we'll meet on Wednesday, will be for human design practitioners so that they can learn how to read a multidimensional chart in about 4 months. And they will also learn about the 4 worlds, because the real teaching here is the 4 worlds.
Yeah.
That we live in multiple dimensions, we function differently in each dimension, and the more we know about each world and its communication, the more our day-to-day life changes, because we no longer are using a spiritual communication to give somebody a mental world assignment, or we're using a physical feedback to take care of ourselves rather than imposing something that's not right for us.
And that's really where this makes sense and is of value to our day-to-day lives, because it's one thing to understand, okay, yes, that's how I am. It's another thing to be able to communicate better, to have better relationships, to even, work better, whatever it is. And that's exactly what you're talking about, is how to take these charts and make them practical and impactful in your life.
Right. To use them as a guide to your process, not a instruction on who you are.
Yes. And that's so good because I think like for me, I know I kind of got lost in human design. Like it's interesting and then okay, what you know, and what you're teaching makes it so practical and it's that piece that I think I was looking for that I kind of got lost with, and didn't really take my study further. Yours just makes it so much more practical and real and functional. I mean, I'm looking at all of these charts and it's just like you said, so much more complete. The I
It,
think a lot
it
of
is
my
complete.
one of my friends says people want to outsource their spirituality. They want to outsource their health. They want to outsource, oh, what's that? Oh, that might be on your side. Nope. They want to outsource, all of their things, but really we're complete. We have all the things. We just need
Yeah.
to understand and believe that we're a
And my job is to say, human design, it's a great system, but it's incomplete and it's misleading
Mm,
because you are complete. Now, I did, for the fun of it, I did your astrology and I did your progression. So it's very clear, Jeri, that right now working with groups and getting your work out to the public, it's good timing for you.
oh,
It's right here. Progressed moon coming up to um, the the opposition to Uranus in the sixth house. You're going to be getting some um, activation in your people.
okay.
They're going to be stirred up. You're going to be um, challenging them in some ways.
Okay.
And also, um, it's going to be building some resources for you. And you're going to feel good about it. Now, if you want to write, you have some aspect coming up that would be good for writing.
Okay.
Are you thinking about that?
I have been. Yeah.
If
It's
you
been
need
coming
any,
up.
if I have good publishing resources, if you need any recommendations.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a great
So
book designer.
tell me, what does progression mean? Because you said you did my chart and then my progression. What does progression mean?
Well, in astrology, what we do is something similar to what I've done in the calculations. We say the moon progresses a day for a year. So I looked at the progressed moon and the solar arc progressed sun. And so the second rung of this wheel is the secondary progressed chart. And I'm looking at where the moon is timing things from your birth chart.
Hmm.
Like if you were born today, where would the planets be?
Mhm.
And how would they impact who you were natally? Uh, and then I'm looking at the solar arc, which see the sun goes back. Um, and we're looking at that and we're looking at, okay, how are the planets currently affecting you? And what can I tell you from that? So there's a lot of stuff under the surface that's coming to the foreground that you want to communicate. Remember, you're a Gemini, you want to communicate.
So my natal birth sign is Taurus, but I relate so much more with Gemini.
That's because you have 3 planets in Gemini, South Node, the Moon, and Mercury.
Mhm.
And you're in the late um, Taurus.
Yeah.
So you're the third decanate of Taurus, which would be Aquarius.
Okay.
So each 10 degrees, and then we could take it even further to what we call a dwad or a super dwad. That's very, technical stuff. And, just doing sort of an overview. And then I looked also at your solar return, and the solar return says you're probably going to be reinventing yourself.
In the process. Jeri 2.0 is, yep, she's coming forward.
Yep, she is. Now, I had the charts of your family.
Ooh, okay.
So I can take a few minutes and just briefly show you. Caleb, so Caleb's a young guy,
Yep.
and he's extremely open. Now, what's really interesting in Caleb compared to you is look how he has the root with all three formats to the splenic center. He does not pick up energy from people like that.
Agreed.
He, however, can be emotionally reactive.
Yes.
When he's emotionally reactive, key question for emotional reactivity. So, Caleb, what would you like to have happen now?
Oh, wow.
That question, which is a clean question, takes the wind out of an argument sails.
Oh, wow. I like that.
It's a clean question. If he's having a tantrum, which he can do, what would you like to have happen?
And he will know. He will have an answer for that question. Absolutely.
He knows, look at the sacral center. Now he's picking up your 14, but this is who he is as a integrated, and he's one of the rare people who's a split definition.
And what does that mean?
It means he has a channel from the solar plexus to the throat to the ajna, from the heart center to the throat to the ajna, and that connects. But then on the other side, he has the formats, and he has a strong splenic center, which doesn't go anywhere.
Huh.
So he has to wait. Now you hook him up. So he's a kid who needs to be around somebody whose energy can allow him to tune into what he wants. So with Caleb, you want to I'm trying to think how to say it in the right way. You want to let him know how sensitive he is. You also want him to know that emotional reactions, if he tunes into what he really wanted to have happen, he may be able to transform his own reactions by saying what he really wants.
Yeah.
And getting out of the mental world. Tricky kid.
Yeah, he's unique for sure. But yeah, he does that, when I've talked to him about, like, I have not used those exact words, but when I ground him, like, what's going on? What do you need? And just don't react to that situation. And then he'll come and tell me, Ivy, was mean to me and I just walked away. And I'm like, good job, buddy. So he is learning to do that. That's great.
Yes, it's great. This is Ivy. So you can immediately see that she needs to wait the week.
Yep.
And she becomes a really strong manifesting generator. Single definition. She marches to her own drum.
Oh, yeah.
That's the 34, 57, 10. And she gets the 20. Now that channel is, let me read it to you. If I can find it in my book. When I see that channel, that's the one I read first. 10, 20, 34, 57, page 91. Oh. So that's these matrices, if you can see them.
Okay.
Then the channel is this channel.
Okay.
And what I said about it is watchfulness, awakening, self-clarity, trust, exploration, self-responsiveness, energy, empowerment, intuitive knowing, sensitivity, and perfected form. Those are all the keywords for that.
Yep.
You are highly sensitive to people and your environment. You know when to trust yourself and when to explore new possibilities, and you acutely sense how you are perceived. Thus, you're at your best when clear about your role. Honor your knowing and be courageous in being visible. Go slow to align with your values.
Yes, that is her.
I could read the whole thing, but it's long. It's like 2 pages. But for every channel, I have keys to empowerment and action points. So the keys to empowerment for her are you're observant of what is around you and perceive nuances in people. Check.
Yep.
When you can contribute to the consciousness of someone you care about, you can be a guiding force.
Yep.
Only take roles that bring you fulfillment.
Yep.
You march to your own drum. Do not compromise who you are to please others.
Totally.
And you're highly sensitive and intuitive. Honor your perceptions and what you know, you know.
Yep. That is my girl. Yep. All the way.
So, that's just a few tidbits out of the book. So anybody who wants to read a multidimensional chart can get my book and start reading the integrated channels.
I highly recommend it. I think I am going to do that myself. This is fascinating.
So that's Ivy, and you can see very different configuration as to where things turn on and off. And she'd be perceived by people as extremely strong.
Yeah.
And she feels highly vulnerable.
Yes.
Why? Look at what she has. She has the sacral center, and then she loses it when she goes to sleep.
Oh. Wow.
She thinks she knows, and she wakes up in the morning and she's confused.
Oh. Okay.
So, okay, let's go to the next. Maya. Completely different.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Just wait. So she's very open, but not picking up so much energy from people in her body. She does pick up emotional energy and she can get reactive.
Yep.
Now, split definition manifesting generator. Why? She has the 6124. This is a person who wants to understand something about the universe. She probes. She doesn't take no for an answer. And she wants to know what she wants to know. And she wants to do things her own way, even when she doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah. She usually figures it out.
Yes. Well, 2 days after birth, she got the 3410. So she wants to do it her own way. Be patient with her, supportive of her, tell her you trust her, but it's going to take her a long time to feel secure in her actions because they play out over 3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she's getting pieces and can self-correct. It's a beautiful system. The fact that, these 8 charts are coming into play over 3 months mean that we always get to correct. We get feedback. It's beautiful that we get. And then Michael, very open, knows what's good for his immune system, super sensitive to his environment. Good timing.
Wow, he is very open.
Single definition manifesting generator. So if he had been given a human design reading, he would have been told, you are a projector, you need to wait to be recognized.
Yeah.
He's a lunar generator who is extremely tuned in to other people and their needs. And he knows what they need and what they want. And he is a creative thinker who can channel what other people need and take him out of the situation if it doesn't resonate with him.
Totally. Totally. He sometimes even knows what we need when we don't know what we need.
Yep.
And he'll say, no, you want this. And I'm like, I don't want that. And then we do whatever. I'm like, oh, that was amazing. It was so good. And he's like, why do you question me? Like, I don't know.
That's an example of someone who has put the pieces of his self together in a composite. And if he were told to just wait to be recognized, it would completely disempower him.
Yes, because we did look at that and he was like, it was not good. It didn't fit. It did not fit for him. We could both see that.
No, because he can channel, he's a channel. He knows telepathically what people are thinking. He thinks outside the box. He's sensitive to his immune system. He doesn't put himself in situations that don't feel good for him. And he picks up the energy, emotional energy around him, and he knows if he wants to be there or not.
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
So that's a quickie thumbnail of each person.
Well, from you doing just that, I can say for sure it is so much more complete and fitting than just what we, saw from human design. Because that did not fit for him, for sure, with Mike. It did not fit for him at all. And
It didn't fit for me either.
Yeah.
Because I've said I'm not a manifester.
Yeah.
I just wait.
Wow. Well, I'm grateful for your work and everything that you've done, and thank you for sharing this with us.
My
If,
pleasure.
how does somebody reach out to you if they want if they want their chart done? How can they contact you?
They can contact me. My email is ehp@noblesciences.com. My website is nobleenergywellness.com. I do a free webinar every Thursday at noon. Starting the 12th of August, I'm going to do a 5-day experience on the four worlds that will be free.
Oh, wow.
If you go to Noble Energy Wellness, I believe there'll be a sign up page. For that, there'll be a sign up page for classes. I'm going to teach the four world class to people who don't know human design, and to human design practitioners, a class also on the four worlds and how to read charts. And those will start the week of August 26th.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much for sharing. I really appreciated this, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to find it fascinating and want more information on this. So
Thank you.
thank
And
you so
thank you
much.
for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And I'm sure that we'll be having you back again in the future.
Anytime. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.